All right, so you decided to move to Chicago in 2024 and you're trying to figure out which neighborhood is best for you. Well, today's video, you are in luck because we're gonna be talking about the top 5 Chicago neighborhoods to move to in 2024. So I actually did this video last year as well for 2023, and I named out my top neighborhoods at the time. And this was actually the top and highest performing video on our channel thus far. It's actually the main video on the screen when you come to my YouTube channel. But I just quickly wanted to highlight and kind of backtrack to what I was predicting last year in terms of the top 5 Chicago neighborhoods. And those were Lincoln Park, West Loop, River North, Irving Park, and Logan Square. And while some of those are the same and they still made the list in 2024, there's a few of them that are actually different. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Jordan Pyle and I'm your go-to Chicago real estate agent. My team and I have been servicing the city of Chicago for the last 10 years. If you're thinking about moving to Chicago this year, we'd be honored to help you achieve your real estate goals. So feel free to just text the number on the screen and a team member or myself will get in touch within 24 hours. That being said, if you're not quite ready to reach out, you're not at that stage of the process, but you want to kind of familiarize yourself a little bit more and kind of warm up to myself and my team and some of the value we can provide, well, we're offering a free bi-weekly newsletter. All you have to do is just go to the link right under this video, sign up for that. You're going to get that delivered to your inbox for free, no obligations. You can unsubscribe anytime. And lastly, if this has been valuable to you, just do us a favor and like, comment, and subscribe. All right, let's get into it. All right, so for those of you that have a short attention span, well, I completely understand because I do as well. So I'm just gonna give you the top 5 right away. But if you wanna stay for a little bit more information, I will go into a little bit more detail. And the purpose of this video is not to go super in detail because I've actually done some pretty extensive videos on each of these neighborhoods in the past. And for the ones that I haven't, well, I'm gonna be doing kind of a deep dive into each of these 5 neighborhoods on future videos. So definitely subscribe so you can catch those future videos. But if you just want the answers, you just want the top 5 for 2024 specifically, well, they are Lincoln Park, Lakeview, Old Town, West Loop, and River West. So those are the 5 that I'm predicting for 2024 to be the hottest neighborhoods. And this doesn't necessarily take into any account any specific data. This is more about what I'm hearing from people that are reaching out to me thinking about making a move, right? So this is just basically a biased opinion on what I'm seeing in the market and what I'm seeing in terms of what people are desiring in the neighborhoods that they're coming to me to try to move to. And so that's kind of the basis and the disclaimer for this video. It's not necessarily something that is certain data that's pointing in this direction or where I think this is maybe the best investment or, there's different things coming down the pipeline, which is making these neighborhoods hot. These are just the most common ones that I see a lot of clients and buyers reaching out to me about. And so let's get into it. So first up on the list is my favorite neighborhood, and that is Lincoln Park. So for each of these, I'm just gonna name basically a quick 5 bullet points for each one. And like I said, we'll get into more detail on future videos, but this is just to kind of give you a high level so you can start understanding where may be a good place for you to live. So one of the main reasons people move to Lincoln Park, including myself, I also work in Lincoln Park, is because of like the walkability, right? So pretty much anything that you can imagine needing or wanting, whether it be bars, shops, grocery stores, restaurants, proximity to the lakefront, the beach, being able to take your dog or your kids to dog parks or to regular parks, where you're gonna have all that basically right outside your doorsteps. So in terms of proximity to conveniences and walkability, that is one of the main reasons people continue to call Lincoln Park home. Second thing for Lincoln Park is the beauty and the architecture, right? So there's a lot of green space in Lincoln Park, which makes it beautiful, but also the aesthetic of the architecture. You have everything from modern condos to old gray stones and brownstones to high-rise buildings that were built in the late 1890s and early 1900s. So if you're looking for variation of different types of architecture, well, you're gonna really find it all in Lincoln Park. And so I find that this is one of the main reasons people also move to Lincoln Park is because they have a plethora of options in terms of property types and styles to choose from. Third reason people move to Lincoln Park and wanna live in Lincoln Park is because you have great school options, both private and public options. So for Lincoln Park High School, that is the main public school for high school students. And then you also have elementary schools like the Mayor Magnet School. And then from a private school standpoint, you have Francis W. Parker and St. Joseph's, among many others. And so I'm not going to go into the full list today, but those are some of the main schools that people decide to move to Lincoln Park for. All right, the fourth reason Lincoln Park is popular is because the location to the city, right? So even though you're not actually downtown Chicago in what I would call a more dense or more of a high-rise market like towards the Loop, you're really only like a 15 or 20 minute drive or maybe like a 25 to 35 minute CTA or train commute, right? And so if you're looking to go north from the city, Lincoln Park is in a great location for you to be able to do so. If you're looking to go and commute to work in the Loop or maybe in River North or Streeterville or one of those other neighborhoods, well, your commute is going to be pretty short in the morning or at night coming back from the office. And so those are a couple of the reasons I think that Lincoln Park, it has that kind of more neighborhood feel, but it's still so close and attached to the city that it doesn't feel like you're way out in no man's land. It feels like you have a lot of connectivity to the different pockets and the different important areas for your lifestyle as it pertains to the things that you do on a day-to-day basis. Not to mention you're super close to the Lincoln Park Zoo, you're super close to the Lincoln Park, you have Oz Park, as well as the lakefront and North Avenue Beach. And the fifth reason, I kind of touched on this with all the above, but it just has a very neighborhood and community feel. So that rounds out Lincoln Park as one of the top 5 neighborhoods to move to in 2024. All right, going into a very similar neighborhood, and number 2 on the list is the Lakeview neighborhood. And the first reason is, again, the community and neighborhood feel. So unlike Lincoln Park, Lakeview just north, it's basically the northerly neighbor of Lincoln Park, has a very similar feel, but just a little bit more laid back. And so if you're maybe not wanting all the hustle and bustle of Lincoln Park, but you want kind of a variety of different types of properties and a little less activity, a little bit more seclusion, well, Lakeview is often a reason people decide to move there versus Lincoln Park. Number 2 on the list is, of course, Lakeview is the home to Wrigley Field. So if you're a Cubs fan, well, a lot of times that attracts people to this neighborhood for that particular reason. And if you're actually living around Wrigley Field, it can be a little hectic. I often find that people live a little bit more on the outskirts, but being able to be in that environment, being able to be in one of the main historical parts of Chicago and Wrigley Field and watching the Cubs play, that a lot of people really love as like a claim to fame for living in Lakeview. So one of those other neighborhoods that I find that people move to Lakeview for, and that people that live there, they never leave, is people that want to live in the Southport corridor. So this is a little bit more on the west side of Lakeview, but Southport corridor is absolutely gorgeous. You have tons of conveniences, a lot of different shops and cafes and things to do. I just find that a lot of people that are moving to Lakeview, well, Southport corridor is one of the main reasons they do so. Number 4 for Lakeview is, again, just like Lincoln Park, the schools are great. And so you have a couple different schools in Lakeview that I find a lot of people really desire, including the Nettlehorse School, Blaine Elementary, and Lakeview High School. All right, so number 5 for Lakeview is basically things to do in entertainment. So whether you want to catch a show at the Blue Man Group, go to a game at Wrigley Field, as we discussed earlier, maybe you're into different theater and art scenes, well, Lakeview really has all those things and more. So those are 5 of the many reasons that people move to the neighborhood Lakeview in Chicago. All right, number 3 on the list is Old Town. So we talked about the northerly neighbor of Lincoln Park, so now Old Town is actually the southerly, I think that's right. We're gonna go with it. The southerly neighbor of Lincoln Park. So Old Town basically straddles North Avenue. And so if you're on the north side of Old Town, above North Avenue, you're gonna find a little bit more of a residential feel. If you're going to the south side of North Avenue, basically within, a couple mile radius, well, that is gonna be where you have a little bit more liveliness. So the first reason for Old Town is proximity to both the lakefront and proximity to downtown. So just because you're a little bit more south from Lincoln Park and Lakeview, your commute to the downtown markets is gonna be a little bit quicker. And then also just based on where it's located and how the city's grid system works, Old Town has incredibly close proximity to the lakefront as well. Another reason people like to live in Old Town, just like Lincoln Park and Lakeview, is you have a plethora of parks and green space. So another reason people love Old Town is because of Wells Street. So pretty much anything that you can imagine wanting or needing from a convenience standpoint or like a nightlife or entertainment, well, you can find that up and down Wells Street. And so one of the main attractions that I find is really just super popular in Old Town is the infamous Second City Comedy Club. So this is where all the stars have come out of. It's a really fun night if you go get some tickets for the Second City show. You can have drink and food while you're watching, laughing your ass off. I find that I've done this probably 4 or 5 times. Definitely something you want to do. People like Steve Carell, Tina Fey, they've come out of Second City and then obviously created the careers that they have now. So it's a huge platform and jumping off point for a lot of the top comedians out there in the world. You also have Zanies, which is more of like a stand-up comedy club. You have different things such as one of my favorite restaurants in the city is actually the Vig. It's a really cool environment, whether you're just getting drinks or maybe in for a date night. Happy Camper, which is a very unpopular opinion, but it's actually my favorite pizza in the city of Chicago at Happy Camper. Again, a very fun vibe. You have places like Benchmark, which is a bar. There's just a ton of different bars and entertainment. You have grocery stores, you have group fitness classes such as SoulCycle, you have Jenny's Ice Cream. And so up and down Wells Street, you're gonna find a ton of great attractions, which is one of the reasons I think people like to live around in that area. And then lastly, just kind of going along on that thread, is Old Town is a small business haven. While you have some of these larger chains, you're gonna find a lot of like mom and pop small business shops as well, or small business owners that basically decide to put up a store on Wall Street or other neighborhoods in the Old Town neighborhood. And so those are the reasons why I think Old Town is one of the top neighborhoods to look out for and potentially move to in 2020. All right, so the fourth neighborhood on the top 5 list is the West Loop. Some may call it the best loop. And honestly, if I didn't live in Lincoln Park, I would probably live in the West Loop. So this is my second favorite neighborhood in Chicago. And these are some of the reasons why so many other people call the West Loop home. So you can't talk about the West Loop without talking about Restaurant Row, AKA Randolph Street. So Randolph Street is synonymous with the West Loop, as it just is a street in the West Loop that has a plethora of incredible food options. And so whether you're actually living in the West Loop, being in close proximity to Randolph Street is important, but also if you're just going out and visiting or wanting to have a great meal while walking up Randolph Street is surely gonna help you find many different options depending on what your taste buds are feeling for that particular day. So the second thing that people love about the West Loop is the unique architecture. So the West Loop is a very industrial area. It's over time been converted into more modern, both residential and commercial spaces. So just like the place that I live in, I'm in a timber loft, with exposed brick. You're gonna get a lot of this type of feel in the West Loop. And so whether you're buying in a residential building or maybe it's an office environment that you work at in the West Loop, well, a lot of these buildings are gonna be old, warehouses that are now being converted and made more modern for today's world. So on the architecture note, you also have a lot of brand new luxury buildings going up. So two in particular that I really just love in the neighborhood of the West Loop that are represented by my colleague, Mark Ikes with Compass. His current building that is now delivering, there's still some units available. If you have any questions, just go to embry.com, I think, or just type in Google Embry, E-M-B-R-Y. That is a luxury development. It's a boutique building that is basically coming up from the ground, and they are starting to deliver units just as early 2024. So this is an incredible luxury development happening in the West Loop, and it's kind of the predecessor from the first building from the same developers, which is called Sulo Development, also represented by my colleague Mark, which was called the Hayden. And so there's a lot of kind of that modern new feel being combined with the old industrial converted buildings, which really gives the West Loop a great and unique architecture. Another reason people love the West Loop is proximity to not only the expressway for anybody that's maybe commuting north or south, in and out of the city, but you also have good proximity to areas like the Loop. And so if you're in finance or you work downtown in the actual Loop of the city, well, the West Loop, obviously just west of the Loop, is a very close option for you to not be downtown in the actual kind of more high-rise vertical market of the Loop itself, which is mainly and primarily, there's not a lot of residential buildings, it's more office buildings and office spaces. But the West Loop is a good neighborhood just outside the outskirts of it. So making that proximity and that convenience of going to work, or like I said, hopping on the expressway to go in and out of the city for work every day. That's another reason people love the West Loop. All right, so the next reason is the energy of the West Loop. I don't know what it is. It's a different energy, like Lincoln Park, Lakeview, Old Town, all the neighborhoods we're talking about all have their own energy, but there's a young, hip, and vibrant energy of the West Loop, which I really personally love. Unlike what I would consider, Lincoln Park and Lakeview, you have a lot of like younger families. The West Loop feels like more like young professionals, business professionals. People are there to network, to, form connections, to go out, to have a good time, to hit up Randolph Street and go to all these amazing restaurants. And something about it just feels a little bit more young and hip and a little bit more vibrant, right? And so this is something that I love, especially if you're gonna go to the West Loop in like the spring or the summertime. There's just something about it where you walk in, you're like, wow, this is why they call the West Loop the best loop. And lastly, for the West Loop, job opportunities. So you have large headquarters and corporations such as Google and McDonald's that have taken residents in the West Loop. So that is a main reason where, a lot of people that are moving to Chicago, especially people that are reaching out to me from this channel, they're getting relocated for jobs at these large corporations Well, being in the West Loop is often a good option because proximity to work is not too far away, and that is a convenient resource to be also living and working in the same neighborhood. So last but not least of our top 5 list for the top 5 neighborhoods to move to in 2024 here in Chicago is River West. So River West is a small little neighborhood. It's a little, I wouldn't call it a hidden gem, but it's not as large as some of these other neighborhoods, and it's kind of sandwiched in between like what I would call West Town, West Loop, River North, right? And so it's like this little pocket very, very close to the expressway that is often overlooked though, and I find that a lot of people that live in River West really tend to love it. And so the first reason people love it is, as I just talked about, you can't get any closer to the expressway. So if you are commuting out of the city for work, or you're commuting to different areas, either north, south, or west from the city, well, being in River West is a great option because it's only gonna take you a couple minutes to hop on the expressway. The next reason for River West to be a popular neighborhood is it just has more of an up and coming feel, right? Like I talked about West Loop, River North, West Town, all these neighborhoods have come up a little bit more, but you have this little pocket, this little like corridor in between all of those that is still kind of on the up and up. And so that is another reason where I feel like not only do people like that little bit of a more laid back feel, it can be a little less populated, a little less dense, but it also has the possibility for investment, right? So if you're thinking about buying a property in a prime neighborhood from a proximity standpoint and kind of a central location, I feel like the River West neighborhood is a good one because it still has a lot of gentrification and a lot of redevelopment that's going to occur over the next 3, 5, and 10 years. And so the ability for you to buy there today and your property be worth more in the future, I think you have a great opportunity there in the River West neighborhood. Another reason why I think it's undervalued is because you have a massive redevelopment that is happening, which is the Chicago Tribune redevelopment. So the old Chicago Tribune building, that is the location for the new Bally's Casino that is coming to Chicago. And so undoubtedly over the next, 7 to 10, 15 years, this development itself is gonna bring a ton of money for the city. It's gonna bring a ton of different developments, a lot of different residents, and with that becomes the need to really build up the area around it. So if you can get in today, get in early, I think there's gonna be great opportunity here because of not only the Chicago Tribune redevelopment, but just in general, River West being undervalued and underdeveloped. Next up is you have swanky bars and restaurants. So I just feel like this is gonna be a little bit off the beaten path, right? So it may feel a little bit grittier, but you have some amazing restaurants and some different nightlife and things like that, such as just like the Dawson, or maybe you wanna go to Big Shoulders Coffee. They're just a little bit more of that boutique feel. They don't feel as commercialized as some other areas. And so you can still find kind of your hidden gems in the River West neighborhood for your nightlife, for your conveniences, for your coffee, and different things of that sort. All right, then the last point on River West is just proximity to other neighborhoods. As I mentioned before, you have proximity to the expressway, but you're sandwiched right in between the West Loop, West Town, which is kind of a multitude of different neighborhoods. If you go east a little bit, you're gonna be in the River North neighborhood. And just by being in River West, whether you're taking bike, public transit, or driving, you're gonna have a lot of different options around you for you to jet in either direction, for you to go and explore different neighborhoods or go and try different restaurants or different areas of the city that you want to explore. All right, so that sums it up. That's the top 5 neighborhoods for you to move to in 2024 here in Chicago. Again, just to summarize this was Lincoln Park, Lakeview, Old Town, West Loop, and River West. So I hope this has been helpful for you. Like I said, we're gonna go into more detail on each one of these neighborhoods and do deep dives. I do have a couple of these deep dives already on the channel. So we're gonna put those down in the description so you can go and check out those videos and learn more about neighborhoods such as Lincoln Park, Lakeview, and I think I also have one on West Loop. I have yet to do the Old Town and I've yet to do the River West deep dive neighborhood guide videos, but those will be coming on the channel. So if you wanna check those videos out in the future as those are released, just do us a favor, like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on your notifications so you know when all of our future videos are released. And so I hope this has been valuable to you today. If it has, like I said, if you're moving to Chicago or just thinking about making a move in Chicago, feel free to text the number on the screen, or a team member or myself will get in touch within 24 hours. Also, if you want the newsletter, bi-weekly, no obligations, unsubscribe anytime, that is also down in the description. Click on that link and then check out all these videos that are around here down in the description as well. Kind of some related videos to this video itself. And so again, hope this has been helpful. Until next time, peace.